Oh my, it's been such a long time. It feels almost unnatural to do this. It's been 4 months, if we wanted to be exact. Well, no, if we want to be exact, and I have waited until next week, then yes, it would have honestly, truly had been 4 months since my last episode came out, all the way back in April. I know my disappearance was sudden, but it taught me a lot of things, and life has been a little bit different since then. And today I thought, on the last day of a 5-day vacation, I figure maybe it'll be a good time to go back and sort of share what has been going on, what have I learned, and what is going to happen for the rest of the year. Because if you think about it, August is kind of like that sweet spot, right? Depending on when you are, summer might be ending or starting, and you have half of the year to accomplish whatever goal you may have left in your New Year See, I can't even talk. It's been 4 months. Cut me some slack. So grab a drink, hydrate yourself, go walk your dog, or do some dishes. Make sure you clean your apartment. Along with my chaotic, or maybe not chaotic this time, recap of everything that has happened in the past 4 months. Boy, oh boy, wow. Let's just get on with it. Maybe it's a side effect of aging, but I truly, honestly cannot remember exactly what was I doing in April, May, June, July, August. So I think I have to rely on my trusty, enunciate your words, Julie. Trusty planner's help to help me recount all the events that has taken place. But the last thing that I remember that was quite a big event was me going back to my hometown in China. And then I had my birthday trip where I wanted to revisit all the places that held special memory to me. And if you hear this sound, just wait for it. Just wait for it. Trust me. You hear that? It sounds like snoring, but like a ghost is snoring, because the sound is coming from where my apartment's air filtration system is installed, but it's not on. And it started making that noise maybe a few weeks ago. I really thought, maybe it's my neighbor snoring because the walls in Korea are quite thin. But then I'm like, wait, why is it so rhythmic? Why does it happen in daytime? So then I turn on everything I had in my apartment, like AC off, air purifier off, fans off, and it just stood there. And I tried to pinpoint where the voice was coming from, and it was coming from the freaking air purifier, but it wasn't on. So I'm like, what is making that noise? I really, truly want to contact the maintenance to get the problem fixed, but I don't really want to contact them because that means I would need to talk to them and they would need to come in. But I'm wondering, is that voice not even coming from my apartment? Because nothing is on. If it's not on, why would it be making noises, right? Help me out, electrical engineering students. Is it because it's plugged in that it could still make noises even though it's off? Or I don't know, did my upstairs neighbor buy like an air ice cream machine or something? Because I even chopped it up to, I don't want to record podcasts today because that noise is going to be bothering me every 5 seconds but we're going to move on because our brain will eventually get used to it and forget that it even exists, as all things are. So let's rewind back to April and see what we were up to. We had that Guangzhou trip. We started like an extracurricular class at my work. I finished a video. I finished okay, I remember this. So in the beginning of the year, since last year, I started reading a lot. Mind you, I really hate reading. And I only like to read maybe like psychological thrillers because I enjoy like true crimes and such. However, I started reading self help books or books that are kind of philosophy related because I wanted to find an answer. I started pondering, what does it take to live a fuller life? And then I started looking at different literatures. And so books like Tuesdays with Maury, the creative outlook, the creative way. And then there were also other books that I read. On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, which that book, oh my gosh, I love that book. The language was beautiful. Ocean Vuong, excuse me if I pronounce his last name wrong, Englished in a way that I didn't think English could English. That's the best way I could describe it. It was so beautiful, and beautiful is like for lack of better words. The usage of metaphors, the usage of just chef's kiss. Please have a read if it's at a bookstore near you, which if I could find it in South Korea, you could probably find it in the States or another English speaking country. So I read a lot and I compiled my thoughts, and it genuinely did take months to just read all the books, let the ideas condense, and then filter it to a way that this is my outlook from these books. And that actually turned out to be the longest video that I made. It was 12 minutes, and I just kind of dumped everything into a video. And I finished that in April. Wow, good job. I didn't even remember that was from. Whew, sheesh. And then we had that All-Star company-wide events. I visited Taro's first solo exhibition in Seongsu. So there's an area in Seoul, it's called Seongsu. There's a lot of hip places there, but also there was this gallery as well, and he hosted his first photo gallery, Men Don't Cry, there, and a lot of people showed up, gave him a lot of love, and it was a really successful event. Yes. Then I had my health checkup. Probably that was where we left off from the last. Yes, and then we had like a 2-day break, 3-day break, at the end of April. Yes. Right. Yup. Yes. Then in May, what do we do in May? In May, I finished another book. So my goal was to finish one book every month. In April, I don't think I finished any books in April, but I did. In March, I finished On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. What about in February, I finished Letters to a Young Poet, Tuesdays with Maury. And in April, in May, I finished a book that I really wanted to read, and I bought it from China. It was like, I went to was it the biggest library? Maybe not. But I just fell in love there. There were so many books that I wanted to take home, but realistically, my luggage size plus the weight requirement that I have to meet for carry-on. So I was like, I ended up walking away with 2. One is called A Guide for the Perplexed, and then the other one is called The Science of Murphy's Law. And I finished A Guide for the Perplexed in May, and I think subsequently The Science of Murphy's Law in June. Yep, correct. May was a bit interesting. I started doing 10K walks / jogging. I committed to buying this pair of running shoes that I've been eyeing for quite a long time. And I just decided, let's give it a shot. I wasn't a big fan of running, but then this shoe felt like I was running on cloud. Was it the Infinity? It was one of those by Nike, and it has this pretty big foam in the heel block, and it really does make running easier. And I have this trail next to my apartment surrounding this like lake that we have. And if I were crazy enough to commit, I could actually, that would reach all the way to the Han River. One day I got really close. Well, I shouldn't say really close, but I was like 10K. So 5K, yeah, I was like 5K down, and I'm like, if I commit 5K more, I would hit the Han River. But I felt like I would be so exhausted, I don't even want to come back. And I don't think Korea would appreciate me hopping on the bus in running gear. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but just trust that there is a social pressure of not being able to wear gym clothes out in public. So I was like, yeah, maybe next time. I started jotting down the people that I meet each month, because after doing that test of, what was it, my strength finder test, I realized one of my strengths was connectedness, and staying connected with the people that I was close with, or the people that I care, did give me like a positive outburst of energy and fulfillment. So I decided, you know what, let's keep track of the people that we meet so that we could check up on people that we haven't met. I think I met about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ooh, met like 8 people in May. That was a lot. That's more than my social capacity could manage at a time. But yes, we met quite a few people. And then it was actually one of my coworker friends' birthday. So we ended up doing like a surprise event for her where we went to make our own perfume. So I made my own, and I really love how it smells. It's like a mixture of, jasmine and it smells a bit powdery, but it has like a tea infused after scent. That's, for lack of better word, I know there's a better word for that, but we made perfume. That was a new experience that I had. Ended up watching a movie called Late Night with the Devil. Oh my gosh, I think that's the first time I watched a scary movie at a movie theater. My friend and I, we had a hand over our forehead at all times, because when it gets rough, we'll just bring it down. That movie was surprisingly not bad. It exceeded my expectation of a horror film. And also, we thought it was an indie film because we saw it last time when we kind of had a rendezvous at a cafe. And she said, are you into like, scary stuff? And I'm like, yeah, kind of, but I don't really, watch a scary movie that has like a tinge of religious background. So I was like, those I stay away from. But maybe like supernatural ones, I'm like, okay. Because she's like, okay, I saw this trailer, give it a go, see if you like it. And then we watched it, and I was like, I would be down for that. And then one day I was in the subway. You know how, well, it depends. So on top of the exits, the doors, there's like a slivet of space where people could post like subway advertisement. And I saw it. It was in Korean, but I saw it, and I was like, wait a minute. What? It's in Korea? So I took a picture of that, and then we reach out to each other again and be like, hey, it's actually showing. Do you want to go watch it? And we picked a day, and then we decided to go. And that was really good. And I started doing something called a detox day. So I felt like I was always busy on the weekends, either hanging out with friends or editing. And I really just want a day where I kind of sort of disconnect and reflect on my own thoughts and feelings, and just kind of have a reset day to regroup myself in a sense, I think. So I started doing that, where I just turn my phone on airplane mode and completely be off the grid for a bit. June was pretty chill. It was towards the end of May, I started doing this short series. It was quite impulsive, but I'm glad I followed through. So towards the end, when we were approaching Mother's Day, I was in a pickle. I knew I wanted to give my mom something, but I wanted it to be meaningful. And, buying gifts, buying clothes that she likes, or things that could be potentially useful to her life felt a bit shallow. And suddenly I had this urge of, wanting to tell her things that I wasn't able to say before. And I impulsively decided to make a video. It turned out to be a series, just a 4-part series called Apologies Sent Late. I felt like I wanted to say sorry to my mom and eventually to other people that I haven't said before. So that I drafted the scripts, and then I recollected some of the films that I had in the past and kind of like recycled it and reused it. Because for me, when I film something, I kind of use it for one time and I just let it go. But then I thought, if a lot of thoughts went into a shot, if it holds meaning, I should reuse it, shouldn't I? And plus, also, I'm not anywhere near my mom right now. So if I'm making a video about my mom, unfortunately, I do have to recycle some shots. So I think yes, I did. So the first one was an apology to my mom. Second one was to my friend. Third one was to my sister. And last one was to myself. So the one for my mom is this one. It's called Sorry, Mom. I don't call my mom enough. It started to feel like a chore instead of serving the purpose of reconnection. I was simply repurposing the hurts I've received from her into microaggressions that'll end up rewinding the drawstring that recounts the same conversations. But if your heart is ever big enough for reconciliation, take it, make that call. Because even if there's an ounce left, love trumps all. And time not only heals, but also takes the loved ones we weren't prepared to lose. Still, you're right. Your aches are valid, and I know because somehow I still don't call my mom enough. I think that was born out of the tug of war between I know I should call my mom enough, but I was avoiding some conversations that probably needs to be had for the sake of our relationship, for the sake of reconciliation, for the sake of just our love for each other. I know I need to make those calls, but somehow, sometimes it'll come out sour. And I sent that, I made it. My mom saw it too. And I was like, well, I think this is a good concept. Let's continue with it. And at that time, I just completely stopped making shorts. I think I was stuck in a spiral, which I would talk about later in a bit after I do this like speed run of what I've been doing, like a generalization of what I've been doing these months. It is a topic that I want to talk about, but the second one ended up being to my friends because in the summer I started receiving a lot of wedding invitations, and I felt so bad that I couldn't go because this is a very important point in someone's life, right? To witness the holy matrimony and to be a part of that and to be invited, it's a big deal. And I wanted to be there, but my work situation doesn't allow me to be there. And it became like a reoccurring theme because I was abroad. I couldn't be there for a lot of these important events. So the second one was dedicated to my friends, and it was titled Sorry, Long Distance Relationship Friends, LDR Friends. It pains me that what I've missed now are no longer just boba runs or Costco raids, but baby showers, weddings, graduations, and all things in between. Life abroad is fabulous in design and inherently lonely, so I'm thankful for your messages, evites, and have you beens. I miss you, sometimes more than family, because at the end of the day, you are the siblings I chose with my own conscience. So wherever you are now, I'm sorry for the lost time and for holding on to the thoughts. For holding on to me, though I could only offer words or grainy video calls or voice memo at 3 a.m. while going through it all. Thank you, always, and love you much, much more. And my friends ended up commenting under that too, and which it got me feeling quite emotional. So at this point, I do feel like it, even though it's not like, let's say, something groundbreaking, but it was something that I wanted to make, and I wanted to send, quote unquote, these apologies to certain people, and they saw it, and them receiving that felt like a warm hug that I missed for quite a while. And the third one, I was kind of contemplating who else do I wanted to send to. I knew it was going to be a short series, but I started thinking about the people that really mattered, that I've had kind of like misconnections with, and I decided to send it to my sister. So the third one is called Sorry Sister. I don't think I'm a very good sister. Besides the lessons here and there, I've lived as a pseudo-mother, then the moderator, your liaison and negotiator. But was I a good enough of a sister? You and I remember different parts of each other. Time swivels out of limbos of girlhood, college, then suddenly soul. A big gap that we've grown used to, but shouldn't have been there at all. I'll always wish the best for you, of you. Yet my hands started to morph into claws, hoping to tie strings to limbs for a walk that isn't mine to begin. If this reaches you, I'm sorry. If it doesn't, I still am. I know you're a good kid, so even if I'm not there, hug mom for me, do the dishes when you can, and I'll see you in gowns this time next year. Because it was in May, and one promise I made for myself and also to her was that I was going to be there for your graduation. And she was gonna graduate May next year. So I was like, well, perfect timing, perfect line to conclude an apology letter. And my sister saw that, actually, and she sent me a reply. And I remember reading it, kind of almost teared up a bit. What was it? What did she say? Let me see if I can find it. No, you're kidding me. You're joking, babes. You're joking. Did I? Really? Have I? No. Come on now. Was it this one? No, but there was something that she told me that I really... She said, why do I get to watch you grow up and you can't watch me grow up? And that really hurt me. Like, I genuinely felt pain. I was like, I hate that for us too. But that's not what I was looking for. Julie. It has to be here. You kidding? I screenshotted it, Biz. Let me see if I can find it on Instagram. I am so mission driven. When there's something that I'm looking for and I can't find it, it bothers me so much. Oh, there we go. Do-do-do, do-do-do. Huh? Where was it? Girl, stop. Oh, oof, yikes. Before I miss it, there we go. I saw the video you made about me and I felt really bad about it. It was not in either of our control of how our time was together. Regardless, it's not important anymore. Things just had to happen how it did, and it's too bad we can't change anything anymore. I just wanted to say that you're an amazing sister that proved to be a great role model or someone I looked up to. I love your creativity and how you format all your videos, and it inspires me a bit knowing how things happen for you since childhood. You're very strong for standing your ground after all that, and the fact that you're able to make a life overseas yourself. You weren't completely alone, but it's impressive that you've gone to all these places and experienced what you did. I don't hold any ill feelings towards you or anything. I'm just admiring from afar since you're pretty far away. So, like, having that response felt like a full circle. And the last one, I thought, do I address this to Taro? Who else have I forgotten? Then I remember I've forgotten myself. So the last one was to me. Sorry, Julie. It is true. The hardest conversation you have is the one... Start over. It's true. The hardest conversation is the one you have with yourself. Because we're all bad liars, spewing fairy tales tailored for anyone but ourselves. Sadly, the world doesn't get quieter even if you retreat back to your shells. So if it's not too late, forgive me for dulling your smiles. 2 decades is long enough to raise a child. Well, if she's still there, just let her stay for a while. Because the world is vast and the heart is frail. Don't lose your colors or trade feathers for nails. I know a little past quarter isn't enough to see life through, but a good hit on your shoulders and a few common sense will. I didn't believe you then, but I'm a believer now. So go live out your visions, no matter who doubts. And that kind of concluded that series for me. And I was like, okay, I've told all the people that I needed to, and then I think it's comfortable enough to conclude that. So that then that was the last short series that I made, and I haven't really felt proactive or just inspired since. I kind of fell into this limbo. But June was still very much on. So June, I traveled to a new city in Seoul. It's called, what is it called? Some people may know it. Jeonju. Yeah, I went to Jeonju. It was like I had a PTO and I traveled there with Taro. And I really wanted to stay at a hanok. So hanok is like this traditional Korean housing. It was a little bit different than I thought. But I truly, honestly stayed at a traditional hanok. And I was like, wow. But we went there and we had no other agenda than to eat. So we got there with bus and we just ate the whole day. And then we sat at there was this big giant, kind of like a hanok structure where it was just community. Like everyone took off their shoes, went there and just chilled and looked at the river. And that's what we did too. It's very peaceful, very calming. And what else happened at the end of June, we had our very first parent conference. So in the past, although I've been a teacher for quite a few years, we never had that one-on-one with parents because I'm like an academy teacher. Usually you don't have that. Like not every academy requires you to do it. So it was always the Korean teacher that took care of that aspect. But then we had that with our students, parents. And I was so nervous. I was so scared. I wasn't sure what to expect because, where I work, the moms are very, very serious about their kids' education, as all moms should be. But they are pretty, they're pretty and yeah, I remember for every single day I dressed so formally. And I'm like, let me just not, I don't want moms to have a ill impression or to because I am Asian American, and because of that, usually some parents already feel a bit icky about that because I paid for an education that is taught by foreigner. You don't look foreigner enough. I know it's kind of dicey, but it is what it is. And I understand that going into it. So I'm like, I hope I'm presentable enough. I hope I'm knowledgeable enough for these moms to see, hey, this is how much work I put into your kid. This is how much I just dedicated to your kids. And I hope that my dedication shows through these comments that I write for your kids. Because so we kind of give them an overview of their test performance, areas of strength and weaknesses. Then in the separate report is me giving them evaluation of, how active are they in class, verbal communication wise, written communication wise, how is their vocabulary, and just overall like give me like a summary of how they are in their class, what are their strengths and weaknesses and next steps. Took quite a long time, like I'm not gonna lie, it took so long. But there were a few parents that my partner teacher and I were a bit afraid because they've been quite a handful and they're very sensitive about their kids. So when we were meeting them, we were kind of on our toes. But then afterwards, at the end, the last day of the parent conference, I ended up watching a movie with friends. We were watching Inside Out 2, which I need to talk to you about that movie. And then I got this message from my partner teacher, and essentially says, the mom, when she went home, she ended up messaging my partner teacher about just like how the day went, I guess. I don't know if they're supposed to, but they did. And then I was a little bit surprised. I was a little bit surprised. But what was it? What was it? I don't know if I remember. It was. I'm gonna go look for it though. But I did remember receiving that text. I was literally waiting for my popcorn. I was just at CGV and I'm like, I was really hoping that it would, we wouldn't miss the what is it, because we were on the cusps of, they started showing the movie already. We're like, can we still go in? But then we pay for the popcorn, we need to wait for the popcorn, and then we need to go in, right? Anyways, so the mom says, hello, it's my first time going offline consultation while traveling, but I was a little bit surprised because Julie knows redacted very well. Last year I was actually worried about whether I should keep going, but this year redacted is having more fun than last year, so I'm really grateful. Anyways, I hope you have a comfortable evening. Yes, thank you. So yeah, that mom was one of the moms that were always like, She usually asks a lot of question about her kid, and she's, she'd be the type of mom that doesn't even want to staple anything to her kid's notebook because she said, I'm afraid it would be too heavy for my kids. So we always have to be like, okay, do we do this? Do we forget to do this for redacted? So having a lot of that parents interaction, and even being able to talk to some of them in English, I know they're serious, felt really rewarding. I distinctively remember this one conversation I had with one of the moms. Her daughter transferred in like halfway through the semester, and then her daughter in the beginning wasn't very like outgoing, and we heard that there was something. She didn't specify what happened. She didn't want to share, and of course we're not going to push. But something that her daughter went through with the last academy, that she was still, skeptical about being open to teachers. So, we paid close attention to her, and then we really tried to bring her out of her shells. And eventually I saw that happening. And you could just visibly see that she was a lot more brighter in class. She was a lot more engaged, and her writing is really different from the other kids, because like a lot of times writing is just like, I ask you a question, then they just answers very straightforward. But with her, she has like a very unique way of presenting her ideas. And because she came in halfway through, her writing wasn't following the structures that we were teaching, but I didn't want to discourage her right off the bat because I wanted to preserve the way that she writes, because you can learn how to format your essays with training, with time, right? But a writing style is hard to develop. So I was working with her on that. And then her mom, after I explained all that, she said, I really appreciate you, you know, saving and preserving my daughter's writing style. She had trauma with her last academy teacher, and they were being like, I think they were being too strict to a point that she was a bit traumatized. So going into this academy, she was a little bit worried how she would adjust, but she can tell that we put in a lot of work, and we do put our hearts into her kids' education. So she just want to say thanks. And I was like, I can die happy. I feel fulfilled. Like that was the moment where I really truly felt like a teacher. Because I always had this imposter syndrome. Like, I didn't have a degree in education, and but I've been teaching, and I hit the ground running as a teacher for quite a few years now. I think like 3 years pushing 4 years pushing 5. But I always wasn't sure that am I doing a good job as a teacher, or am I just good at following instructions? But then these are the moments, and there are some other moments too, where I really truly felt like, wow, I really care about these are my kids. They're not my students. They're like my kids. And like sometimes I do feel overinvested. So when some of them leave, it feels personal. It does hurt. But I'd rather feel hurt than not invest enough into my kids. I feel like that's pretty important. But yeah, that was a big chunk of things that were weighing us down in June. I think July was pretty chill in terms of stuff. Everything else was going smoothly, as usual. I finished, there is like a 3-part series book called Steal Like an Artist, by Austin Kleon. Excuse me, pardon me if I said that incorrectly. It was such a smooth read. I picked up this like the second book, which is called Show Your Work, not Keep Going, Julie. Show Your Work. Keep Going is the third one. I haven't bought that one yet. I should. Show Your Work. But I was kind of in this spiral of I felt very stagnant. I couldn't create well. And I felt like I couldn't create anymore. At this time, I was still trying to compile all the video footage that I had about Guangzhou, about my hometown, that I was trying to put out a video about that. But it felt like I was hitting a wall. It didn't feel right, but I knew I had to push it out. Like, it couldn't drag on any further. For God's sake, it's in July, and I went back home in April. It's been fermenting for 3 months. Like, what are you doing in 3 months? And it wasn't like I was actively editing every single day, because I can't really do that. I could only focus over the weekends, but then I also wanted to live my own life over the weekend. So that was like a constant tug of war. So I wanted some kind of guidance in terms of creativity. So I picked up that book out of curiosity, because Still Like an Artist has been a book that I've seen countless times from different creators or different people who are recommending it. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I picked it up. There were a lot of things that felt important as an important reminder that I should keep in the back of my head. And Olympic also started, which triggered a core memory, because I always watch the Olympics with my family. So mom will usually dress in either USA team or like China team, because her friends are still coaching for the Chinese gymnastics team. So sometimes, like, one day I'll be in Team China's outfit, and then she'll be in Team USA. So we would watch these events on NBC in the living room together. Like, that was such a core memory when I was reminded that Paris Olympic was happening, and I was like, wait, wow, it's been 4 years. That means it has been 4 years, or it's going to be since I've left home. And that was a crazy realization. I remember telling my mom, do you want to watch the Olympics together? Which didn't really ended up happening because I couldn't find a stream over here that wasn't for Team Korea. Makes sense. I mean, if I'm in Korea, of course everything's going to be streamed about, Team Korea. But yeah, Team USA did ended up, finishing on top, and then China second. So that was interesting. I started running more regularly as part of like cardio after working out, or I would just go on runs for the sake of it, and felt really good at the end. So I'm trying to keep that habit. So now we're back in August. Yeah. Whew. But on and all, towards the end of the months leading up to August, I kind of hit like a revelation, or it's been like a tug of war that I have been battling with, or it was in the back of my head. Because, as humans, we naturally tend to compare ourselves, not just with others, to the people who's around us, but also with who we were last year. And looking back, last August, last July, I was very, very active creative-wise. I had kind of like a back-to-back series, short series that was going on for me. I had Project 50. I had then 28 Days of Magic, and those were all quite intensive creative projects that kept me on my toes, that kept me running. However, this year, when I'm reflecting on, how many videos have you created this year? I had How to Live a Fuller Life. I had, going back to my roots, the letter to Guangzhou. But then, Apologies Sent Late. That was about it. That's one short series and 2 full videos. That's not a lot. It's been 8 months, right? And I could chop it up to, well, you were reading and gathering information about your videos, and condensing your thoughts and all in all. But it kind of, I was worried. In a sense, it felt like I was regressing. I wasn't making any progress. And yesterday, I went to a cafe. One of my favorite cafe in Korea is called Anthracite, and it's pretty calming, pretty quiet for the most part. And I decided to, just sit down and journal my thoughts. And on the way there, I was looking through my feed. I have one personal Instagram account and I have one creative Instagram account, and I don't usually go on the creative one unless if I'm publishing something, which honestly I should reverse it. I should go on the creative one more and then go on my personal one less, because I think surrounding myself with that creative community would be more helpful than just drowning myself in these borderline, I don't want to say nonsense, but these just like algorithm intricately designed feed that keeps me hooked, keeps me lingering in the app. But I have a hard time giving up Instagram because that was my only outlet to my friends back home. I don't use Facebook, and a lot of people, in order to keep up with what they're doing, I have to get on Instagram. I have to see their stories, or I have to reply to their DMs, or I have to, react to the reels that they sent me. That was my only form of communication with them, given that I'm not there. So it was like a part of me wanted to get off so bad, but then I was afraid to lose that because it felt like it would translate into disconnected friendships. So something new that I started doing is instead of having like so I turn off all my notifications. I but then I would find myself clicking back on Instagram to check, wait, what did I miss? Like did I miss an important one? So that wasn't very useful. And I'm like, okay, so turning it off completely isn't going to do me any good. It would just in fact make me worry. And luckily there is this function that Apple has. It's called like a notification summary. So instead of sending me all the notification as it happens, it would just give me like a recap of it, and I have it set up to 11 a.m. and then 10 p.m. So I don't miss anything, but I'm not bombarded with it, and I just know that I'll look forward to that later on in the day, and it's helping me a bit more. And I also took off the function to be able to search it in Spotlight. So Spotlight is like a when you're searching for anything in your iPhone, if you just drag down and you can type in anything and it'll pop up either in these are the hit searches in your photos and your screenshots in your app. And I turned that off for Instagram and YouTube as well. So in theory, gives me more hindrance, and we operate in the path of least resistance, so that would introduce more hurdles that I would need to get over in order to give in to those impulses. And it's worked a little bit. It's still a work in progress, but it's a little bit better. However, I decided to get on to the creative one because it's been a while. And one of the things that I saw was from someone else's reels. She is one of the creatives that I kind of, acquainted myself with in this journey, and her name is Film with Colleen. Film with Colleen is a great shorts, just a creator in general, and she is the definition of grits. Like that's so many more great things I could say about her, but hang on, that's not the point of this. But she made a video. The latest one that she made was about, sometimes we don't realize, but we only have 10 summers in our 20s, right? Because 20 plus 10 equals 30s. So then I sat there waiting for my subway train, and I was like, you're right. There are only 10, and COVID already took one. The panorama already took one, right? And I don't have a lot left. And then I think one of the follow-up questions was, what was the most defining moment of your summer? And I sat there and I was thinking, what was the most defining point of my summer? And that forced me to kind of look back on my year. And I realized, this year, creativity-wise, output-wise, I am not as active as who I was last year. And I could be my own advocate, my own defense, saying, well, you had a lot more going on this year. You switched to a new job. You had to adjust to a new community and so on and so forth. So that's why you weren't able to create like last year. Your context was different. Last year, you could just operate on autopilot mode when you go to work because you've been there for so long. You knew everything like the back of your hands. But this year is different, and you are quite literally on your toes at all times. So maybe it's understandable that you haven't been creating that way. And I also took a look, then I started thinking, does that mean my year was a failure? Have I not lived as well as I did last year? Because if so, then that does mean that I failed. Because honestly, every single year should be like a 2.0 version of the last, right? Because we strive to live a better life. So if my life was somewhat regressed, I need to diagnose myself and see, that's my stomach. Sorry, I'm hungry. I haven't eaten. I took a nap. Why haven't I progressed, right? So I was sitting there, I was thinking, what have I done this year? What did I do well this year? And I think when it comes down to it, do I feel like I didn't live a good year? Honestly, no. I think this is the happiest I've been since I've been abroad. And a lot of that attributes to my understanding of myself. I felt like I've improved my relationship with not only myself, but also understanding my emotions. So I think I put in a lot of effort to see who I was on the inside. And I did end up reading a lot of self-development books, self-help book, to kind of sort of try to see myself from a third perspective. Why do I behave the way that I am? And who am I as a person? And how do I process my emotions? And in doing so, and putting the effort in doing so, I felt like I understood myself, who I am as a person, better. And having that understanding, dang, I'm really hungry. Okay, I'm going to eat after this. I felt like I had a better control of my life. I felt like I was truly the one sitting in the driver's seat. And while excavating all these discovery, I felt more in tune with my life. And that was something I didn't think I was living 100% in the past. I felt like I was always busy catching up. And I probably still am to some capacity. But I felt like I always lived with the belief that everything happens for a reason. And I remember one of the dinners that I had with someone else, we talked about, I don't necessarily remember the context of what we were talking about because it's been so long, it's a few months ago. But I remember saying something along the lines of, I think now, going through everything that I've gone through and reading and compiling all these thoughts and feelings, on top of believing that everything happens for a reason, I think I also developed this belief that I feel comfortable or confident with my life or how I'm going through with my life because I have good faith that life has good faith in me, so that I know whatever decision I make, I have the full confidence of, depending on what your religious belief is, I have the full confidence of that the universe believes in my choices. So I'm not too afraid, or too bogged down in making the wrong decision. I feel like in the past I'm always afraid. It's like a risk-averse version of us, and that's natural, right? All humans are coded this way. But I feel like nowadays I'm more confident in knowing that, whatever decision I make, I know there isn't a wrong decision, but only the best decision at the moment. And life operates in this notion of they are essentially two universes, right? One that we choose to tread onwards with, and whichever scope that we choose. Oh my gosh, this is part of my script for how to live a fuller life, and I think that would do a better job of me explaining it. Here we go. We simultaneously exist in two separate worlds. One where the happenings are prescribed by destiny, and the other operating in indifferent serendipity. The scope we choose to perceive life with determines the realm we tread onward. Everything can be clear as daylight or bare as desert. The unwavering truth is that the external is beyond modification, a dependent variable bound to run this course. The independent wheelhouse, so the things that we can change, rests in our cerebral cortex. So rests in our mind, rests in our decision-making process, steering us through the realities we choose to partake in. So it's like how I decide to perceive this world, how I decide to look at everything, decides the quality of life that I get. And I now feel like I have the trust of the universe that, you know, whatever I believe in, whatever I trust to do will be okay, will lead me to where I'm supposed to be. So I think having that confidence felt like a safety net, and I and felt like with that trust, I was able to continue life without the fear that I've always operated with. And another big thing is definitely being more in tune with my emotions. And I feel like it might be cliche, but really genuinely, honestly, watching Inside Out changed that. So I didn't know Inside Out, really. I didn't even know when it came out. I'm like, what is that? But a new friend that I made was saying that we should go watch Inside Out 2. But I've never even seen Inside Out 1. So she was like, okay, well, let's go watch Inside Out 2 on Wednesday, which means you should finish watching Inside Out 1 before that. So I binged Inside Out 1, bawled my eyes out. And it really puts emotions into like a new perspective. So a very brief rundown, a very poorly done rundown of Inside Out 1 is there are 5 basic emotions. So the story follows the main character, Riley. And we get to see how her emotions work from like an inside out perspective. And there are 5 core emotions. There's joy, sadness, disgust, fear, and anger. And it's like you see them controlling Riley's actions through this like control center. So when joy takes over the control panel, Riley is joyful, right? And I had been told, and I do agree, that I'm a very optimistic person. So it would be like joy is constantly, standing over the control panel to make sure that I was happy. And a lot of people believe that too. We should be happy, like smile. The common notion is that we should have a happy life. Like, why be sad? So throughout the film, it was like Joy was trying to hoard the control panels. Like, no, Riley needs to be happy. Riley shouldn't feel sad. And in doing so, avoiding the sadness that Riley was meant to felt in certain situations. And by neglecting the emotions that she's supposed to give space for, Girlie was not doing good. Like, it was like toxic positivity. And that was a good introduction to all the other emotions that Inside Out 2 was going to introduce. Things like embarrassment, boredom, envy, and my favorite, anxiety. Not only because it's orange and orange is my favorite color, but I just I cried in the theaters, and I watched that movie in theater twice, and I cried twice. There were so many things in that movie that just hit bullseyes. One was the thing about, Riley. Now Inside Out 2 is taking Riley through, puberty. And she's experiencing all these new feelings. And one of the overshadowing emotion was anxiety. It's been such a long time since I've talked about Inside Out 2. I feel like I'm lagging a little bit. But overall, Joy was still trying to keep Riley in a happy mood, but also give space to sadness now, because she understood the importance of sadness. And but then puberty brought in these all new emotions, and they were trying to change Riley into someone else, to create a new identity for her. And one of the big punchline was Anxiety said, you know, fear keeps Riley safe from the things that she can see, and I keep Riley safe from the things that she can't see. And so Anxiety goes to this whole rebrand of Riley. And her intention was well. She wanted to protect Riley, to craft like this best version of Riley. But in doing so, that subjected Riley to so many, we could even say, bad decisions. And that just contributed to this insurmountable storm that eventually turned into a panic attack. And the way they portrayed panic attack was so realistic. It was jarring and eerie to a sense, but then it's like I felt what Anxiety was feeling. Like I didn't mean to put her through all of that. I didn't mean to hurt these people. I only wanted the best for Riley. And when she made all the changes, so Riley operates in this like core belief system of I'm a good person. So that was what all the 5 basic emotions were working hard to build, to have this like happy identity of who Riley was. But when Anxiety comes in, she's just like, we're not doing that anymore. We're creating a new Riley. And then she was just kind of like waiting for this new identity to take place. And when it did, when they waited for this new core belief system, it turns into I'm not good enough. And then Anxiety was like, wait, this is not what I ordered. How do I change that? But then the more changes that they made, the more chaotic it became. And something that Joy did in the beginning of the movie was that she wanted to gatekeep all the bad memories. So she was only keeping the good memories and saving them into long-term memory and just kind of like tossing the bad ones in the back of the mind. But then eventually towards the end of the movie, they realize Riley is not just one thing. She's not just a good person. She could also be selfish. She could also feel like she's not good enough. She could also feel like this multitude of emotions that's clashing against each other, and that's okay. And it's okay to remember the bad feelings. We needed to make space for not only the good, but also the bad. And what we need to do instead of erasing them, we need to just make space for those discomfort to exist. And that is something that I'm actively learning still by reading a book called The Anxious Perfectionist. And it's a book I noticed Taro was reading, but it was translated into Korean. Wow, I'm really hungry. Sorry, excuse me. It's natural. I'm human. I haven't eaten half a day. So let it do its thing. It's just synchronizing with my air purifier's weird noises. But I think that's something that I haven't really come to terms with in the past, is that I want to be optimistic. Why did you want it to be optimistic? Well, I wanted to be optimistic because I didn't want to feel the bad parts. I wanted to turn whatever bad situation that I was in, I wanted to look at the good things and look at the good things only. It was almost like neglecting the bad that was going around me. But in order to be happy all the time, it's exhausting. And that's what Joy says too, is like, am I delusional? Of course I'm delusional. You think it's easy to be this happy all the time? And I'm like, yikes, that's me. I'm not happy-go-lucky all the time, but I present myself this way because I don't want to be sad. I don't want to feel fear. I don't want to feel anger. But when certain situations evoke those emotions, truly, honestly, I need to recognize that. And I also need to recognize that emotions serve as a function. Why do you feel anger? Is it because of a certain thing? So me having a better understanding of my emotions was definitely a progress that I've made from the past. So I'm like, okay, cool. I think I'm better than last year in terms of navigating through my emotions and understanding and being able to separate myself to look at it from a third person's lens. And another thing that I did better than last year was that I'm rediscovering girlhood again. So I've had friends in the past, but it never felt like it was in the community. And that's just purely number wise. But this time in the new place that I'm working at, I really found a lot of kind people. And I've built this community because we work together. So it's like in greater numbers, it felt more like a community. And this community really helped me rediscover girlhood. I feel like that's something that I've missed being away from my friend groups in the States. And rediscovering new friendships and opening back up, like opening myself up again. And just truly feeling that I'm enjoying what is it to not only to live, but also what living abroad could feel like. It could feel this joy that I missed feeling for quite a few years. So then, like, as I was journaling at the cafe, I was like, okay, these are, there are some of the minuses in terms of creativity. I felt stagnation. And the hypocrisy is that ever since I quit pre-meds, I always felt like I wanted to keep moving. And that's the reason why my favorite animal is a shark, because the misconception that sharks had to keep swimming in order to stay alive because they need to filter the water through their gills so they get, oxygen and so on and so forth. So I always told myself that I feared stagnation. But lately, this year, creativity-wise, it felt like I've been floating in shallow water. Like I felt like I felt scared. And I know why I felt scared is because towards the end of last year, I made a video called, I Hate My Life. And it's not as it seems. It actually talks about what you should do in order to rediscover your life and live it again. So like if you feel like the walls are closing in on you, maybe that means you are seeking for new rooms to grow because the roots are pushing against the walls. So it was more like an inspirational video than anything. And that video, when I first published it, it was, it did what it did, like normal. But then out of nowhere, the algorithm picked it up and it had quite a few views. It's not like mind-boggling, like 250K, but it sat on a pretty comfortable 12K, and I've never had that before. Aside from the video about my cats, but same thing with my cat video. It was normal, and then suddenly it picked it up, and now I think it's sitting at like 21K. But I didn't expect it to do that well compared to how all my other videos are like 300 or 400. And I think I was taken by surprise. And it definitely swelled up my ego. Because that video was me attempting to try a new storytelling technique. And okay, I get it, you're hungry. I really thought it wasn't gonna do well because it felt so new. But then I went in with the intention of, you know what, it's gonna suck, but we're already neck deep. It's like the sink something fallacy. I don't remember what it was. But yes. And I thought, we're already neck deep, so let's just follow through. And I published it, and I was afraid that I think I went into it thinking that it wasn't going to do well. So when it did, it was a nice surprise. And having my video seen the way I hoped it would be felt good. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I felt good. So when I made the second video, the one about how to live a fuller life, and I spent extensive time just consuming text to try to get to the bottom of it, to find this meaningful message. And when I published it, it didn't do that well. So that really stuns me. It scares me almost. And I did feel like I was doing a better job at establishing a healthy relationship between the numbers of my views and the value of my work. I wanted to create things with meaningful ideas. That's something that I would never give up. But also, I thought I was better at accepting that some of them just might not do well. I thought I was better. But when How to Live a Better Life kind of hit a wall, it scared me. It felt like I was back to where I was before the video that did well, before my Golden Child video. So I think that put a stop in my gear, and I was afraid to turn the wheels again, in a sense. I was afraid to face that disappointment again. And that has to do a lot with my perfectionist outlook, which is why I'm still reading the Anxious Perfectionist book. And there's a lot of quotes that I love. But one of the reasons why I decided to pick it up, because my friends shares me this quote that just had like a lingering impact in the back of my mind. And I thought, wait, if this was a translated version to Korean, there must be an original copy somewhere. And the quote goes, "A life without value is..." Let me take it off my mirror, because I literally tape it on my mirror so I see it quite often. Oh yeah. Wow, I've sat here for an hour. You've been listening to me rambling for an hour. Hang on. Don't break it. Okay. Ooh la la. I started saying ooh la la because ennui from boredom from Inside Out 2. Here we go. Life without values is one spent waiting, constantly and nervously without realizing the waiting has become life. I love that quote so much, and amongst other quotes from this book. But what was the point of... No, please don't lose this. Please don't lose this train of thought. But yes, I am still trying to get over that fear. And there is a new video that I'm creating. It was actually from a prompt that I wrote a few weeks, even a few months back, earlier in the year. And I was just going through my Muji note, because like in this notes I read about a lot of my creative thoughts and project ideas. And there was one entry that I wrote. I said, sometimes I feel embarrassed to release my thoughts in their rawest, uncured form here without pre-screening whatever I wish to express elsewhere, consolidating them, then migrate a more so well-structured, more flushed-out version of the tornadoes in my head. A kind of a wishful thinking that this version deserves to be remembered more than my present self. But that's simply idealistic and frankly, maybe even a bit dishonest. Who I am on paper shouldn't be shamed. Who I am on paper shouldn't be shamed to bear my heart. It is already a given that I'm flawed by nature and choice. A facade isn't needed when you're fighting a war with an army of one, battling none other than yourself. I guess the one thing I've truly mastered is manipulation, overlaying years of delusion to sway my decision to be someone different than the image I've procured. I really am curious of who I could have become with my own hands and spinning the steering wheel at the cockpit. I wonder if that day would ever come. Yeah, like there's just these few months were just so many similar contemplation of existential crisis, but also, understanding who I am and baffling at discovering who I was, and thinking about how I could be better. And I apologize, this podcast will probably be so scatterbrained because it has been so long and there's so many things that I've been sitting on. It's like I felt like sitting on dynamites and they're just popping off one by one. But one thing that really helped me process everything that I've learned and everything I've felt is journaling. I've journaled so much more consistently starting May. The first entry in this new book is May 24th. Yes. So I have quite a long commute to work. It's about an hour or so. And sometimes when I'm sitting on the subway, I just scroll through my feed, right? But then I felt like that wasn't really productive. So I started getting this notebook, again from Muji, because I love Muji. And the cost and quality is insane, is unmatched. This notebook, hardcover, right? It's called Open Flat Notebook. It was probably like 2,000, 3,000 Korean won. And the paper quality is so different. So I've gotten a fountain pen. I rediscovered my love in fountain pen. I used this when I was a kid in primary school back in China. And then when I went to the States, they were like, why are you using that? I'm like, what do you mean? Everyone's using ball pen, right? So it was hard to find a fountain pen that wasn't ridiculously expensive. So I was like, okay, I forgot about it. But then I rediscovered it because our company was giving out this pen from Lamy for Teacher's Day. Then I just fell into an entire hole of, wait, they have fountain pen too. Because I was looking up for pen refills. I did like the build quality of that pen, which is right here. It's very nicely built and it's ergonomical design. And I was like, okay, well, I need to know then, where can I get the refill for this pen? And while I was looking for the refill for this pen, which is kind of ridiculously priced for a ball pen, I don't really like ball pen. I like roller pen. I like ink rather than oil based. I remembered it when I was looking it up, but now that I'm not looking it up. Anyways, so the fountain pen glides over different paper differently because you know how depending on the quality of paper, it's going to absorb ink differently. And the Muji notes, the ones that I've been using, kind of like a scrapbook, oh my gosh, it glides so beautifully. And same with this new hardcover note that I decided to get for my commute. So whenever I get to sit down for my commute, I would journal. I would journal about the day, like maybe how I felt the day of or the day before. So on the way to work as well as coming back from work. So I have this like collection of thoughts. And I felt like it really helped with my mental clarity. And then I also started doing this thing called the archetype journaling prompts. So I came across this YouTuber. Her name is Crystal, and because I was looking at all things journaling, the algorithm decided to bless me with her archetype journaling prompt. So there are these different types of characters, I think, and then she asks you a lot of insightful questions to discover who you are through that archetype. So you have types like the healer, the hero, the rebel, the sage. And I started doing that with my friends as a way to pass time during our long commutes when we're heading home after our hangouts. But then I loved it so much, I started doing it on my own. And it really is a good way to open up for you to see, to reflect on not only your experiences, but how your experiences shaped you. So I've done The Innocent, The Creator. The Creator took 2 pages. It was so much to unpack. The Jester, The Sage, The Explorer, The Everyman. And some of them are like, let me just take a look at The Creator, okay? Whew. And I would do them and then record my responses in voice memos so I could listen to it again. So The Creator had a total of 6 questions. The first one, what do you want your legacy in the world to be? My answer was, it's quite daunting to approach the word legacy because of the weight it seems to carry. Thankfully, I've learned to accept, or honestly, it's still a work in progress, that oftentimes things like purpose or mission carries a much wider general explanation. But overall, my goal or the motto I've tried to adapt is to just live a great story. although I don't feel like I may be living to that full extent on the daily. I want my legacy to lie in my creation, and the message I want to preach is to help reframe our perception of the world and relationship around us and our perception of this seemingly drab society. To see the good in things and the beauties wilting right in front of our eyes before the last puddle drops. So, like, questions like this really make me think about how I see my world. So, like, the next question is, do you think that you're creative? Why or why not? How can you cultivate creativity or think outside the box? Do you have a burning life passion? Do you think you'll be more fulfilled chasing your passion or finding balance? Are you a perfectionist in your work? Do you like that part about yourself? So these things these are meaningful questions that one should be asking about themselves. And I know that we're busy living our lives and things happen, but I think we also really do need to reserve a time to reflect on our experiences moving forward. And I've been also consuming a lot of podcasts and videos regarding life. I feel like this year was me not only living life to a fuller extent, but also examining life for what it means. I really wanted to live, for a lack of better words. And I know this video is trending nowadays. There's a video about this like MIT educated, you'll know what I'm talking about if you've seen that video. There's this MIT educated neurosurgeon who quit his life because he kind of realized what he was working for wasn't coming from the right place. So he was basically rewiring or rerouting his life so that he could live in more meaningful ways. And there's another podcaster that really helps me learn different things about, myself or my feelings or my life, is Mel Robbins podcast. She's also on YouTube. There's a lot of helpful episodes that I've gotten from her. I know I've saved it down to name a few. I have things like how to master your emotions, how to deal with negative people, how to create the future that you want. There are also things about, relationship with your parents, gentle parent, like especially because I'm a teacher now, I'm educating the next generation. I feel like this responsibility of teaching them the way that children should be taught, teaching them values that is not only English centered, right, but also things that are valuable in their life, things that builds their character, things that help them become a better human in this chaotic world. So I've been just, consuming a lot of those advice, consuming a lot of those information, and trying to recreate a better version of myself. And I think if you had to ask me, what is something that you did better than last year, I would tell them this, understanding myself, reaching for the meaning of life and building a more meaningful life and solidifying the relationships around me, and the footprints that I leave in this world. And simultaneously, I'm still working to get over fear or expectations or egotistic expectations, things like that. And I think, I don't know if stepping away from podcasting helped me with that, because I know a lot of the episodes that I do is I just sit down, I tell you about my week, or I sit down and I tell you about the big things that happened in my life, whoever is listening. I had this fear that I was overexposing myself a bit too much, because when I come on here, I really truly tell you about everything in my head. And this this existed because it was a way for me to bring down my thoughts, and also a way to help my friends to keep up with my life. And then eventually other people tagged along and got to see parts of my life and the things that I think about as well. And thank you for your kindness and for accompanying me through all this craziness that is life, the spiciness that is life, all the plots and twists. Maybe they'll be my character arc, maybe they'll be my villain arc. But it does take a lot of mental energy for me to the best of my chaotic brain, Aries energy, whatever you want to call it, to sit down and give you like a best rundown of everything I was feeling at the given time. And I was scared that that was too transparent, and that maybe I needed to let some of those thoughts marinate in my head. And it takes like an hour, and well, it used to take an hour, but now it's like getting longer and longer because I just ramble. It takes quite a while, and I post it and I give like a quick summary of it in the overview that probably most people don't even read. But it's that perfectionist outlook that weighs upon me. Is like, well, is it even good? Is it like, why are you sharing this? Is it just wasting your time? But then sometimes it really helps me to just air out whatever has been stuck in my mind, because I felt like if it's living in my head rent free for that long, it needs to be evicted. It needs to leave my brain, because I have a limited capacity to handle all the things that's going around me. And I did, these past few months, I felt so overwhelmed with workload and all my emotional awareness. I felt like I was opening a lot of Pandora boxes that I should probably slow down. Like I needed a moment to just open one, indulge in everything, let it sit, and then open another one. But it was like constantly opening multiple one, maybe intentionally, maybe unintentionally. But then I was like, I'm overstimulated. Help. And uncovering those friendships, making new memories, and then having all these plans. At a point, it felt like, wait. It's great that we're making these connections, but I'm struggling to keep up mentally, emotionally, socially. Because in the past, it has always been limited and intentional. And it's still intentional. But it felt like because the size of the pool has increased, I am now stretching myself thin. And I'm like, oh, I can't. It's like I don't have a weekend to myself anymore. And that led to the birth of Detox Day. It was like I wasn't editing as much as I did before, partially because I was making more plans with people. I was having new experiences, and I thoroughly enjoyed them. Yes, I did. But also I could feel myself. I was like, wait, I think we need to stop. But then the pedal wasn't as sensitive as it used to be. It was like, it was harder to say no, because in the past it felt like I didn't even really need to say no, because I didn't have plans to say yes to begin with. And I felt like I had nowhere to run. And work was piling up. Work was starting to get very intensive. It was like one after another, regular class, summer intensive, regular class, extracurricular clubs, regular class, summer intensive, regular class. It was like nonstop. And I think I felt like I almost broke, or maybe I did. And I just tossed in the back of my mind, like Joy always do, and Inside Out too. But I definitely reached a point where I was like, I want to run away. I need to be alone. Nobody talk to me. And I think I am slowly trimming the amount of plans that I want to make. But September is fixing to be busy again because I have friends coming and just traveling plans and but I think October, November, December, like felt like the last 50 meter in a 100-meter dash, right? I want to reel it back and just make it focus on myself again. Let's end the year meaningfully. There were so many good things that you did this year, so many good points that you uncovered, so many things that you've been building up, your health habits. You're starting to eat a lot more healthy. You're meal prepping, you're eating, you're making smoothies, you're running like at least a kilometer every time. That's good. Keep it up. I want this year to end on a high note, as everyone tend to want, right? And next year is quite scary to think about because I feel like a lot of things is going to change. Work-wise, yeah, mostly work-wise, but also next year is my sister's graduation year, so I that is a big priority that I am centering next year's plan around. So that is going to be the make or break for a lot of things. So I'm a bit scared approaching that deadline, but also at the same time, I'm kind of excited on who I will end up becoming by the end of this year and who I will strive to become next year. So all in all, I am happy with the break that I took to have that time to reflect on myself because I think for me, when I think about, can I even be a creator to make a living? I feel like I'm approaching the understanding of, maybe that can't be you. Because for me, I really hold content creating or video making, let's say that. I feel like that's the right word. On a display case. Like for me, that is my last hope for this life. It's like, I think for the lack of better word, what did I say? I believe I said that in one of the journaling prompts. Yes, I did. Yeah, it says, do you have a burning life passion? And I said, after feeling, but I said, after feeling so lost for so long, I feel fortunate to find video creating, and I wasn't sure if that was grammatically correct, fulfilling. But I'm reluctant to call it a passion because I lack that burning ambition people tend to associate with passion. It's something that brings me joy and fulfillment, but I'm just not feeling as pressed about it, nor do I want to press it because I'm afraid. I fear applied pressure would ruin the support it currently provides me, as if being the last straw on the camel's back. It's the last hope that I want to protect against the society I'm using it to escape from. So I really don't want this. I don't want video creating to become like, oh, I need to meet deadlines, so I'm making a video. I don't want it to become that way. And you could say that's a very naive way of looking at video creating because you can't have that as a passion and also has it as a way of making money because that's how a lot of creators are doing at the time. But I think for me as a person, the moment it starts to be about another purpose, it loses the genuineness behind it. For me, in my perspective, in my narrative, in my dialogue. So What was the point of this? So I think I start to realize that it might not be me. I might not be able to become a full-time creator. And so my creative outlets are something I want to protect. And I don't want podcasting and releasing my thoughts this way to feel like a burden, because it was startly beginning to, and that's why I stopped. So maybe I will come back next week. Maybe I'll come back in 2 weeks. Maybe I'll come back in a month. I don't want to make promises anymore, because I feel like when I make promises and I break it, I really discount the trust I have in my own words. I do hope to talk to you more often. That is a given. And I do hope to share what I've learned with you, because I think if I'm pondering this as a 20-something, there are 20-something elsewhere that's probably pondering about the same thing. And if what I went through could save you an ounce of pain and could give you an insight on how to approach whatever divergence that you are approaching, I would love to give you my 2 cents, whether you take it or not. I think it's good to have like a support somewhere out in the world, and that's something that the internet does a great job in doing. It's bringing people a lot closer before. And at the end of the day, social media or the internet is a tool, and how we use it, how companies design it to be, is our way of using a tool. You know, it's like a fork can be a tool. It's an eating utensil, but at the same time, it could also be a murder weapon. You know, it's how you use it. So I hope to use this more productively and allowing the algorithm to push me to whoever that probably needs to hear this the way I want my videos to end up, like allowing the universe to speak through me. So yeah, I think that is enough dumping for this long-awaited episode. I'm gonna go eat before my stomach blows up on me, because it has been complaining this whole episode. If you haven't noticed it, just go back and listen to it. It's like, I told you I'm hungry. Why are we still not eating yet? I'm gonna have some cold noodles. I've been craving ice cream, but I feel like I haven't done enough productively to do that. Maybe after I throw away my trash, I will pick up one of those little ice cream. But that is it from me for the 84th episode of Lactose Intolerant. Can you speak? 84th episode of Lactose Intolerant. I am very fortunate to still have you with me here. And if you're hearing this, thank you for sticking around. And I hope for the few months that we've been disconnected, you have been living your life well, living your life to the fullest potential. If not, it's never too late to start. So make sure you take care of yourself. Health is wealth. So focus on what you eat. A happy gut is really going to change how you feel emotionally, and a good sleep schedule. I had like a 5-day vacation break, and let me tell you, I've been sleeping without setting up an alarm, and I've been getting full sleep, and I really genuinely feel like a brand new woman. Like, wow, why have I been going to bed late thinking that it was no, it's not productivity. And I will, you know what, I'm gonna go through this book, The Anxious Perfectionist, and give you like a whole recap of the things that I find useful. And girl, or boys, let me tell you, it's been very eye-opening. But without further ado, I'll let you go on with your day. Take care of yourself. Until next time. And again, thank you for listening. Okay, I will see you around. Bye.